Hi everyone, this is Coach Julio, and I wanted to do a quick video this morning. It'll be really brief, but I want to talk about, I'll just get right into it. This is not an easy conversation to have, but it needs to be had, and I'm going to walk the talk. So the elephant in the room, racism, and yes, so I was asked. So how can I say it? So I was asked, I asked someone how they're feeling. Let's start with that. And the person was white, and the person said, I don't feel good. And I said, then she asked, how do you feel? And it was pretty obvious that she was referring to the situation that's happening now. And she asked how I was doing, and I just basically said, I am living it. See my skin? I live it. So I experienced it, family, friends. I know I've gone through it, and I will go through it again, and that's part of how I grew up, and that's how the world is. And then we had a conversation. And the next thing she asked, I don't know what I can do about it, or what can I do? I said, well, if you're not aware of this, racism, which is real, actually permeates, it's not just from white people to minorities, it's actually within the Hispanic community, within the African American community, and just different communities. Sometimes, not sometimes, there is a certain part of the population where if you are fairer skin, lighter skin, people who look like me from the Hispanic community, I'm inferior or I'm less than. That's just part of it. And you can see it on TV, you can see it everywhere. So I'm saying this is actually everywhere. What you're seeing is one part of it, but what I'm getting at is like, we first want to have the conversation, and that's what came to my mind when I was speaking with her. I'm like, wow, so I can only imagine if you have an employer, if you have friends and family who are not speaking about this. So what I'm trying to say is, start within your sphere of influence. You know, your sphere of influence. It's time to have conversations. You know, if you have family members that you sense look at other people a different way from different cultures, you start talking about it. And, you know, without that conversation, the elephant in the room is going to continue, and that's just going to perpetuate what's happening. And even if it's just, I'm hoping I'm getting this message across, is if you're asking, what can I do? Is start within your sphere of influence. That's what I'm saying. You know, start with your family. If you're a parent, if you're a brother, if you're a sister, you know, start that conversation. Be like, hey, can we talk about what's happening, rather than watching it in the virtual world, on TV, on social media? Can we, as a family, have a conversation? Now, if we have grandkids, nephews, and nieces, you know, that's where we're supposed to start, rather than getting the information from the outside. And then you can agree to disagree, but the conversation is one of the most important things, starting within your sphere of influence. And then if you have friends like I do, most of us, I don't know anyone who really doesn't have friends of different colors, different cultures, you know, it's okay to say, I don't know what to do. I acknowledge what's happening. I'm sorry. The first thing is, if you have friends of different cultures, it's time to talk about, you know, this, and be like, it's time, because the elephant in the room won't go away. If you want to have the world where it's like, you know, I'm just going to go here, sit, have my lunch, while across the street this is happening, you know, like not a parade, but the protest and anything like that, that's a choice. And that same decision process can be used to ask within your friends and family, is like, what's happening, and is there anything we can do, or can I acknowledge it? So the sphere of influence is very important. What am I doing today? What have I done? What I'll continue to do is, being a Dominican American, born here. My family came here, first generation. I will continue to live the way I live. I am very painfully aware how I look, my skin complexion, my tattoos, which are all mantras before you start. So those gangster tattoos, they're actually spiritual tattoos. So I'm a spiritual gangster. You can go like that. But I'm painfully aware that the way I carry myself reflects people of my complexion. So I always carry myself to the best of my ability to be respectful. But I also have to be, I'm not a doormat either. And am not a doormat. So what I'm getting at, because I'm painfully aware that there's certain biases and stereotypes on how I look, and what I do for a living, that also applies too, until they start speaking with me like, wow, he's actually a nice guy and respectful, and I didn't know that about you and your family. That's like a ripple effect. So I will continue to do that. But on the flip side, I'm painfully aware that doesn't work for everyone. There's people who have that, and hate is learned. It's not. No one is born with hate. That's just the truth. But you can unlearn hate. That's the best part. So maybe one of the best things that could come out of this whole crisis is that certain people will begin to unlearn hate. That's what I'm trying to get at. It's possible, and that has to start with a conversation. You can't change the world with the internet. You can start changing your world within your community, your sphere of influence, and have some conversations. If you have a black friend, a Hispanic friend, white, doesn't matter, white to Hispanic, we all bleed red. So my biggest thing is that it's time for us to start to unlearn hate and do what we can within our sphere of influence. Acknowledge what's happening. It's not the new normal, and that's the best I can do for right now. That's the best I can do. And to everyone to all the families, and I've had family and I've personally experienced all the racist things. I've been called many a times things. I'm one of those people that we can go to higher ground. We can go on. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say. Don't get pulled into that. Don't get pulled into that spiral of hate. Go back to your family and go back to your faith. Go back to whatever gives you strength. But hopefully you can use that strength for today to start to have conversation. Not virtual conversations, face-to-face conversations with people in your life. I say it again, and I have to end it with that. It's time to have some face-to-face conversations with your family, and then from there go to your friends, and then from there you go from there. So that's all I have to say. If you have any questions about me and my experiences, post it in the comments. You can DM me, you can email me. Till then, all I can say is namaste.